take your tie off. You look like you're choking to death.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
I remember in the newspaper, a man lost his arm in an accident and wanted to have it buried.
He wanted to do what?
Have it buried in a cemetery.
He must have been nuts.
The authorities refused. The arm was cremated, and that was that.
What?
They refused to give him the ashes. And if so, by what right?
All right, that'll do.
Don't worry. Tell me, at what precise moment does an individual stop being who he thinks he is?
You know, I don't like complications.
Cut off my arm. Right? I say me and my arm. You cut off my other arm. I say me and my two arms. Follow me? And now, if you cut off my head, what do I say? Me and my head, or me and my body?
Hello and good evening, Manchester and the surrounding areas, and whoever may be watching it on the internet. I'm Dr. Kevin, and I am the guest host tonight for the Queen City Chronicles. John Hopwood will be returning next week if John Hopwood decides to return next week. For those of you who are long-term viewers of the Queen City Chronicles, you know that John does what John wants to do, and that's John, and we love him for it. Or we hate him for it, we do something. But we're not indifferent or we wouldn't watch his show. So I want to welcome you tonight. Tell you a little bit about, you may have caught the show I did last month, I think it was, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. And guest hosted for John at that point. And I'm going to be guest hosting on a semi-regular basis through 2018. So I'm going to start with a little bit about me for you to kind of know where I'm coming from and the topics that we're going to cover tonight. Some weeks I'm here, I will have guests, and some weeks we will actually just be covering a topic or something of interest. Sometimes it will be political, but there are a lot of shows that are doing politics, and I almost think that we're starting to OD on politics. I think we have enough polarizing things going on in the world, though I may seem like I'm skirting them before the show is over. I have my own I have 2 weekly TV shows and a weekly radio show. I have 2 TV shows out of Hudson. One is Web of Light, for people who are weaving a web of light in the world. And that show actually has been syndicated nationally. So you can come and check that out on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/mydrkevin, MYDRKEVIN, where you'll find our backlog of shows after they've aired in Hudson. And then I have Dragons, Unicorns, and Other Creative Creatures, which is a show I do with host Rona Goffstein. And we promote and support local artists of any kind, from jewelry makers and chocolatiers to glass fusion artists to clothing makers to filmmakers. We invite anybody in the greater Nashua, Manchester, Hudson area. If you can make it down, we actually had a band come and perform that came down from Maine, and doesn't make any difference to us if you're willing to make the trip and you would like to share whatever your artistic creative side is with the world. We'd love to have you. We do a lot of authors. So if you would like to know more about Web of Light or Dragons, Unicorns, and Other Creative Creatures, again, it's all on my YouTube channel. It's where we house it once it's aired. And you can contact me at Dr. Kevin at MyDrKevin, which I know is at the bottom of the screen. Especially if you're interested in being a guest, and I'll send you out the information. My radio show's been on for 12 years. They tell me I have about 3 million listeners spread around the world for the Dr. Kevin Show, where we like to take things outside the box. I'm currently being played and then syndicated. I get played originally through ohmtimes.com, and then one of the IPM Nation with Matt Connerton. Those of you who have been around for Manchester Public Access TV, actually, or radio, 95.3. I just finished being a guest on Matt's Drive Time show, which he does Monday through Friday. So make sure you check that out from 4 to 6 on 95.3 FM. And I'm a regular guest or / guest co-host with Matt. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. Matt comes and does my shows as well. So, make sure you check that out as well. But you can also find my radio show on IPMNation.com. And Dr. Kevin and Friends Network, which is through IPM Nation, is a TV channel that has 30 years of videos and lectures and classes and content. And it's called Dr. Kevin and Friends for people that have been on daises with me, as well as my own stuff. So there's a little bit there. I have about 13 books out currently, everything from ADD and ADHD, where I look at ADD as part of the evolutionary process, broadening the bandwidth of humanity, not a disease, disorder, or disability, to Combing the Mirror and Other Steps in Your Spiritual Path, where I talk about and give people a very step-by-step way to discover, own, and create your own spiritual path. I also have books out on poetry and books out on business. And I'm all over the boards. So you can check all of that out at mydrkevin.com. So give you a little bit of the history. My grandmother first talked to me about being psychic when I was 4. At that point, I played a game with her, and I told her what she looked like when she was my age, how she wore her hair, the color of the name of her best friend, and I sang the song that they sung when they played together. My grandmother sat down and said, "Kevin, you have a gift, and it's a gift from God. People will tell you that it's bad or that it's wrong, or that they don't believe you. But as long as you know it's a gift from God, everything will be okay." My grandmother's words lived with me, and they live with me today. Because there were people that did tell me that I was bad, that I was wrong, or that they didn't believe me. But it never stopped me from knowing that my grandmother had told me a truth. That I had gifts, and they were gifts from God. Who that God is, well, you get to define that. I define it my way, you get to define it your way. So I have been in practice now for, it'll be 28 years in January as a spiritual coach, counselor, and catalyst. That includes medical intuitive, it includes doing intuitive readings, it includes doing work with ADD and ADHD children and entrepreneurs, because people with ADD and ADHD are 400% times more likely to become entrepreneurs, according to Forbes magazine. I still teach at a MBA level boot camp for entrepreneurs, and still do business consulting, do some nonprofit work. And I do all of this because I'm an ADD poster child. And as an ADD poster child, I refuse to be limited. I refuse to be put in a single box. And in fact, one of the segments of my current radio show is Outside the Box, where I ask my guests to take my listeners outside the box in some area. I used to be called, my radio show at one point in its 12 years was called Outside the Box with Dr. Kevin. And then that term got a little overused to be just a single radio show. So it gives you a little bit. Currently I have lots of irons in the fire, obviously, and lots of things going on. Tonight, there's a few different things I'd like to talk to you about. But before I go on any further, and I don't know if it's up at the top of the screen or not, but we do have a call-in number, and that call-in number is 640-3091. 640-3091. So if you do want to call in, if you have any questions, any comments, feel free. I want to... Oh, and there is an incoming call. Let's see if I can get this right. Hello?
Yes. I'd like to know what are the signs of ADD and what how do you function with ADD?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of different signs of ADD and ADHD. And for those who may be watching, ADD is attention deficit disorder and ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADD is, the signs of it are very creative, very brilliant, outside the box thinkers. They tend to be, he has hung up on me, but I'm going to continue answering his question. So, highly creative, highly intelligent. They problem solve in a very interesting way. They literally think differently. They tend to have high energy, but they don't necessarily have to. A while back, I actually created an app where parents could answer 12 questions about their child, and they became a shade on the Dr. Kevin rainbow, and there were 64 shades on the rainbow. Once it was determined what shade your child was, it generated a 20 to 27 page report on how to parent your child, educate your child, support your child, things like this. ADD also tends to be very justice oriented. It either hyper focuses or it multitasks. And people, they hop on to the multitask. You hear the joke, oh, hi, I'm ADD, oh, look at the squirrel. And that distractibility. Well, the distractibility means that hyperfocus was not engaged. If hyperfocus was engaged, then it would, that you could be jumping up and down and screaming beside them, and they don't pay any attention to you. If you ever parented an ADD child or babysat or took care of or had in your thing, and they got hyper-focused on something, now that might have been a video game. It could have been a book. Yes, there are certain types of ADDs that love to read. I happen to be one of them. So it's not true that they don't like to read. Some kinds don't like to read. Some get very hyper-focused when they do physical activity, and sometimes physical activity will help. So it depends on what kind of ADD, ADHD you have, because it isn't as simple as it's one pill fits all. And, and if you have, 4 or 5 different pills, one of them is going to work to basically make you less distracted by eliminating part of what makes you so brilliant and so creative. There is a price that one pays. Now, I am not a medical doctor. I cannot diagnose, I cannot prescribe. I'm not telling anyone to go on or off of medication. I'm not going to diagnose anybody as ADD or ADHD on the show, even if they call in and tell me what, oh, that sounds just like me. The ADD individual tends to be very justice-oriented. They tend to get very upset when they realize that something is unfair, even if it's not that it's just unfair to them, but that it's just unfair. There is always an innocence about them that they never quite fully seem like they grew up. But, that is a kind of almost cynicism. It is a kind of They may understand that bad things happen in the world. They know that they happen, but they don't understand why. They can't ever just dismiss them, at least not if they're functioning. Functioning means non-medicated. There have been lots of stuff out about medication. 80-90%, I don't know the exact anymore, when I'm doing an in-service or getting ready to present or be interviewed on this. I update all my most current figures. But of studies that we see have been funded by drug companies. They may happen at Harvard. Harvard actually did a research study that the Australian government was going to use until the Australian government yanked it at the last minute because they realized that that it might have been done by Harvard, but it had been underwritten by a drug company that sold ADD drugs, and that they felt probably made the information questionable. There have been a few notable researches done that were not involved with drug companies out of the U.S. Canada did one where it was 11 years and I think it was 1,100 students. They followed them for 11 years. They concluded that working with the students as individuals was more successful and that they outperformed the kids they put on the medication. In the boys' cases, they outperformed and got better grades and did better and were more prepared for life. In girls with ADD, they had less emotional and mental issues. Now, this was a study. Hello, and welcome to Queen City Chronicles version of the Dr. Kevin Show. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. I called in a little while ago. I wanted to tell you that I know the guy that has ADD, and he's actually, instead of taking it orally, he snorts it. Why did he do that?
I have no idea. I'm not a medical doctor. I would be extremely surprised if that is how he was recommended to do it. ADD drugs are some of the most commonly resold drugs on the high school playground in colleges.
No. He wasn't recommended to do that. He's supposed to take it orally, but he snorts it. It's called Adderall.
Yep.
He claims he does that because it hits his system faster.
Again, I'm not a medical doctor. That may be true. I can't really comment. I know that from everything I've read or looked at, that that it's not recommended to be done that way. And now, remember, Adderall, like a lot of the ADD drugs, have a similar makeup are in the same family as like cocaine. It's just basically a legalized version of speed. And Adderall used to be called Obertrol. It was a designer weight loss drug in the 70s that was taken off the market because of its highly addictive qualities. It was repackaged, repurposed, sold to a different pharmaceutical company, and then made a drug for us to give our kids, sometimes who were 3 or 4 years old. So it was too addictive and too dangerous for adults, but it was okay to give it to a 3-year-old. So that's the history of Adderall. Again, he has a personal relationship with what he feels works for him. I can't tell you why. If that's what he says, then that's what he says. Certainly.
Can't that damage him? Isn't that serious into the nose like that?
I certainly would not do it. Again, I can't comment on medical practices. It would not be something that I would personally do. And if a loved one of mine or someone that I cared about was doing it, I would question it. I do not believe that bringing anything into your system that way. Well, in the 1700s, they used to have snuff boxes. And that's what they called it, snuff. They opened it up and they snuffed. Give them a little zip in their walk. Today it would be called snorting. But it used to be called snuff in proper society. And all of proper, not all, but a great deal of proper society did it. Would I recommend
the
it?
only way he can sleep is when he smokes pot at night.
You know, it's not uncommon that when people have well, first of all, I don't know this man. I can't diagnose. I cannot prescribe. I want to make that very clear. What I can say is that oftentimes if people have very brains that don't shut off, that are always thinking, which is common in the ADD, that they find they need something to mellow them out. For some people, it can be meditation. For some people, it can be aromatherapy. Some people use medical marijuana. Some people just use what they buy on the street corners. Everybody kind of sort of finds their own way on this. It's not mine to disagree or agree.
Doesn't it, by snorting like that, doesn't it make you paranoid? To me, it doesn't sound
Okay.
right.
Sir, I need you to listen to me. I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot tell you.
I didn't ask you to be a medical doctor. I said, doesn't that make you paranoid if you do speed like that in your nose?
I can't comment on that.
What the hell am I calling for anyway?
I don't know. I'm trying to give you the information of how to help understand. People call with agendas. This guy does not approve of what his friend does. He thinks it's not in his friend's best interest. He wants to get somebody who he can use as an expert, which I have been called a field expert of ADD. My first book came out in 2000, and I've been working with it since the late 90s. I will not ever comment on what somebody should or should not be doing with medication in any way that is start it, stop it, do it differently, because I'm not trained in pharmaceuticals. I'm not trained in pharmaceuticals by choice. I research them and I study them, but also no two people are alike. Everybody has a different experience. You may take a medication and it may be perfectly harmless to you. Somebody else may take it that could have an allergic reaction and it could kill them. Medications are always a little bit of a crap shot. We don't ever know what anything's going to do. There are people that get sick by taking aspirin and everybody would go, oh, that's the most harmless thing in the world. Everybody's different. It seems like the majority, most people, but you can't use all. If I had somebody that I cared about and felt like they were showing addictive, dangerous behavior, then you would probably want to pursue it. But I can't comment on what I can't comment on. And if this was my relative or my friend, I would have a serious conversation with him. And I would even volunteer to go see his doctor with him if I felt like it might be out of control, or I would reach down the proper channels to report if he was doing inappropriate self-abusive behavior. But yes, one of the things to calm the mind that ADD people are known to use is marijuana. I don't think as a person that any kind of snorting is probably healthy, yet aromatherapy is a powerful alternative healer. And you smell aromatherapy, you're not snorting it, but you do take it in through your olfactory system, and it does reach the brain very quickly. Aromatherapy can be very powerful for a number of things, from calming the brain down to waking the brain up to helping people lighten their mood or feel happier. There are many things about aromatherapy. Crushing medication that you're not supposed to be doing and snorting doesn't sound like a good idea to me. But this guy was looking for something he could go use against his friend. And I can't be that person. So, if you're still watching, I'm sorry I couldn't be the bat that you beat your friend with that Dr. Kevin said, oh yes, this is horrible. But I would suggest you could find some research studies online and share it with him if you're really concerned, or reach out to the right professional to help with it. If anybody else would like to call in, however, the number again is 640-3091. That's 640-3091. And you know what? It's very interesting. This is a perfect segue because there were a few things that I wanted to talk about tonight. I got more into ADD than I planned on because somebody asked. If you call and you ask about something that I have referred to that I have an area of expertise or a background in, feel free to call. This is your show. Again, this is the Dr. Kevin version, or this is the Queen City Chronicles of the version of the Dr. Kevin show. I don't know, my dyslexia might have just kicked in. But I want to talk about bullying tonight. For those of you, I'm going to try to stand up. Hey, Santa, stop judging me. Do you ever think that waving naughty and nice over your kids' heads is the threat to get them to do something around the holiday season? Maybe might not be the best idea. Wonder. I'm going to share a poem I wrote. Actually, I wrote it for Matt's show because I want to talk about bullying. And the poem is called Bullying. Wounded, you bully. Powerless, you bully. Angry, you bully. Lost, you bully. Hopeless, you bully. Hurting, you bully. Suffering, you bully. Defenseless, you bully. Cowardly, you bully. Victimized, you bully. And I'll be right back. Hello? Every self-righteous group, organization, and religion bullies. Each bullied person becomes wounded, powerless, angry, lost, hopeless, hurting, defenseless, cowardly, and victimized. Either and or both becoming a bully or a victim, abusive or self-abusive, aggressive or passive-aggressive, until they heal, forgive, and most importantly realize it was never about them. During this holiday season, we have a lot of things that go on. We bully our kids to a certain degree with Santa Claus and the promise of gifts that are not going to come. We will take our children off of their schedules, especially small young children, where schedules are so important. We will keep them up late. We will let them engage in behaviors that is not good or kind to their emotional, mental, or physical body. Eating things that will bring them on to sugar highs and crashes, getting them overtired, dragging them around, and making it all be a big celebration. Then we will watch when the child melts down, has a breakdown, gets all upset, and then sometimes, not all the time, sometimes I see good parenting. I see the parent that says, I'm sorry, it's really time to go home now. I'm sorry, let's find a place you can lay down and close your eyes. That will take some responsibility. That just because it's Christmas does not make your 2-year-old 20 years old. It does not make your 3-year-old 13. That it does not make your 4-year-old an adult who suddenly is okay being up until midnight, or who is going to make bad choices when you put a bunch of sugar-laced, remember, sugar is a drug, sugar-laced food around them for them to overindulge on until they get sick or exhausted or go on a roller coaster ride. And then I see the other parents, the ones that blame them, the ones that bully or just continue the abuse they've already been giving to their child by allowing them to engage in these kind of behaviors. It's the parent's job to be the safety net. It's the parent's job to set the rules and the parameters. It is the parent's job to keep them safe and know the level at which they are capable of making decisions or not. That's the parent's job. And so when the poor child has the meltdown, for the parent to yell at them, to say, I told you you had to behave. Look at all I've done for you. And I hear it. And I know that there are those of you out watching the show who have heard it, and some of you may have even said it. How can you embarrass me like this? Or, you promised to be on your best behavior. That's bad parenting. You set your child up to fail and then blame them for the failure and make them feel bad because they ruined your good time. When you have children, there is a period of that time where you must make sacrifices. Those sacrifices include, you might not be able to go out and take your kid to the late night party. Hello? That you won't be taking, that you can't take that child out to that late night party. That you might have to give one up. And don't let relatives or family members of any kind push you into saying it's okay to bring your small child to a late party because they want to see them, or it's only once a year. Because we all know that there's not just a once a year thing. From Thanksgiving to Christmas, we go into endless parties or schedule interruptions or all sorts of things. And it is not being a good parent to drag them through because you don't want to miss any parties or because you're being guilted in that you have to go. If they're good grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, cousins, or friends, they won't ask you to bring your 2-year-old to a party that starts at 9 o'clock at night. They're not going to do it. And if they expect that, then you need to tell them that that's not the kind of parent you are. If that's the kind of parent they are, well, they get to be that parent. So, bullying has been a big issue. And some of what I described may or may not qualify as bullying. But what I can tell you is that bullying is a big issue. We're seeing more of it. It's getting more highlighted. It's becoming more identified on this at schools. It happens in the workplace. But we seem to turn a blind eye at times that we really need to hold accountable some of the bullies that are the instigators of the incidences. People oftentimes say that if a child is a bully, they must have seen bullying at home, that they must have been bullied at home, or somebody at home was being bullied, and that's how they became a bully. That might be true for some children. They will learn behaviors from their parents. And if a child is caught bullying, maybe the parent should have to go into some kind of training or session to find out if they are themselves bullying the child and the child is just repeating what they're doing. But what happens if it's the teacher that's the bully? Because there are teachers who are bullies. They humiliate other kids in the classroom or pick on them or make fun of them or say things. What happens to them? What do we do with those? The teachers who are bullies. Now, I'm not saying all teachers are bullies. There are some fabulous teachers out there. I've had teachers that changed my life. And I've worked with teachers that have changed the lives in a very positive way with the kids that I've worked with. But there are still teachers out there that are bullies. Are they being held accountable? Is somebody calling them on their stuff? Then there are the other bullies that we see. And are we identifying that that is inappropriate behavior? There are bullies that happen on sports teams, in and out of school. There is bullying that happens in our government. I oftentimes refer to our president as bully in chief. It has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. It has nothing to do with whether I agree or disagree with his new tax law that he's trying to get through, or his take on Obamacare. No. It has to do with the fact he bullies. It's not made up, not taking things out of text, not just putting him in a bad light because I disagree with him. It's reading his tweets, hearing his comments. It's the things that come out of his mouth that are intimidating, that are bullying. I had a guest recently on my radio show that challenged me because they thought it was disrespectful that I called him bully in chief. But my response to that, as my response to you tonight, is that to some degree, we have to identify a man who is role modeling to children what is incorrect behavior. When he encourages violence at rallies, at talks, when he makes comments, not even inferences, because inferences could be debatable, but makes hard comments that any child on the school ground would make, that if they were heard by a teacher would be accused of being a bully. He bullies. He just does. And if we don't point this out, that it is bullying and inappropriate behavior, and that sometimes people get away with stuff that they shouldn't. It does happen. It is a conversation that we all need to have with our children. Sometimes it's a conversation we need to have with ourself. The world works in funny ways, but we don't want to run from the truth. And if you have a child that looks up to you, a child that role models you, a child that is figuring out what is good and right behavior and what is not, then you have to point out when not good behavior is happening, even if it is by the President of the United States, or by a congressman, or by a school teacher, or by a fellow parent. Now, there are ways to do these things. You want to think them through, and you want to get guidance and advice if you're not sure how to handle it. But you still want to do it, because when behavior is role modeled and allowed, then it's communicated that it's acceptable. It's been a long time, if ever, that children are made to be seen and not heard ever really worked. A loquacious child was a loquacious child. And even if they just ended up muttering and talking to themselves, they still talked. And a shy child or an introverted child was still an introverted child. We can't change the basics of our human nature. We can work with them, we can understand them, but we can't change them. So this holiday season, you may be around more kids, more children, as a treasured aunt or uncle, or cousin, older cousin, whatever the case may be, grandparent. You may be around more children. They are watching. Children will listen, as the song says. And we do carefully teach our children to be judgmental, to be bullies, to be bigots, to be closed-minded. When they see us engaging, or sometimes just tolerating that behavior and not calling people on it, not explaining that it's not okay, that it's not right, it's not good behavior. The other place that we see a lot of bullying goes on that needs to be called out, that needs to be spoken about, is from religions. Certainly, we are watching in the difference between the peaceful Muslim and the radical Muslim. You have those Muslims that are saying, no, we're not ISIS. We are peaceful. We keep to our own faith. We are not terrorists. And they have perverted the word of Islam. This is not part of the teachings. This is not what you are when your religion is Islam. The radicals are the bullies. And whether that bullying happens through suicide bombing or threats or taking out what is convenient to you for them to beat you with. But that doesn't just happen in Islam. You'll find versions of that in Judaism. And in this country, you find it in Christianity. There's a meme that I created, and I put it out through my Facebook pages and my social medias every now and then, and I'll just re-put it out. And it's called, "It's Time to Stop Bible Bullying." I have a few things I want to share with you, because just like you have your fanatical Islamic, your terrorist, there are a lot of ways to terrorize people. There are a lot of ways to bully people. None of them are justified. As the peaceful sects of Islam or Judaism will call out the radical versions of those religions that are twisting and perverting their teachings to be judgmental, to be bigoted, to preach hate. So does Christianity need to step up to the plate and do the same. Those who are true Christians live it. They love their neighbor. They don't judge. They don't cast the first stone. That was not the Jesus teachings. There were many things said in the Old Testament that nobody who's calling themselves a Christian today would either ever think of doing. They would never think of putting their spouse or their child or their parent to death for working on the Sabbath. Well, you cannot pick and choose. So I want to go over this list with you. And again, if you want to know more, you can email me or check my stuff out. My Twitter, my Tumblr, my LinkedIn, all under my Dr. Kevin, MYDRKEVIN. And you can find that on my Facebook page. You know somebody is a Bible bully if they start quoting Bible verses at you without getting your permission. They never ask you whether the Bible is the holy book of your religious belief system and is unwilling to show the same respect to your belief system as they demand of theirs. You know, if it's a Bible bully, if they only pick and choose quotes out of the Bible for shaming, blaming, and maiming your psyche. Uses the Bible as a weapon while ignoring the Bible quotes they don't want to be held accountable to. Bible bullying is never done as a Christian act of love, but as a bigot's act of hate. The term Bible bully can be used about any religious or holy book that someone uses against you. It could be Quran bullying, especially if it is not part of your religious spiritual belief system. Bible bullying has been known to leave permanent scars on people and even to lead to acts of abuse, self-abuse, murder, and suicide. I finish this up with saying it's time that we made it a crime to Bible bully people. Don't be confused why your child is a bully or a bigot or judgmental or hateful, or you get calls from schools if you are sending them to sit and listen to a preacher, priest, minister, rabbi, holy man, imam, who is preaching hate, who is preaching bigotry. If you are really Christian, you were told not to judge. You were told not to cast the first stone. You were told that just role model love. Role model love. Role model compassion. Be. The best examples of Christianity I have ever seen were the people who role modeled it. That didn't run around waving a flag, didn't have a big protest sign protesting that somebody who wasn't Christian was wrong. That's bullying. Teaching your child to be part of a superior clique that only has certain limited entrance abilities. Teach them they belong to a community of love and acceptance and compassion. Show them how to go out and do good works. Be a good person. Show them to find happiness within themselves, joy within themselves, to feel good about being a good person. And when they are happy and they are living a good and positive life, when they draw to them good and positive things, whether you want to say that's by the grace of God or the law of attraction, role model to them how they can role model, and people will come up and say, what's the secret? People that are lost will look to you as a light. Invite them into your joy. Don't ram your religion down their throat. Find what is similar. Find compassion. Don't preach hate. We have enough us and thems in this country. Part of the problem with this country is us and thems. And the media feeds on it, and our political parties feed on it, and Wall Street feeds on it, and lots of people make lots of money by keeping us at each other's throats, keeping us adversarial, destroying our self-worth and self-esteem, making us feel like we are not good enough, that we have to buy something, we have to take something, that somehow we just were not born good enough. It's driven into us countless times a day through ads, through messages in books and magazines and movies and TV shows. It's reiterated through our political systems, and it is a platform of us and them. It is all focused on how we are different. And it forgets that as individuals, we get to make individual choices. And then if we want our individual choices respected, then we should respect others. You may have seen those things that float around that say, you know, if you don't believe in gay marriage, don't marry somebody of the same sex. Who does it hurt? You fight to fight. And yet, you take a religion that was founded on love and compassion and acceptance. There's also this assumption that everybody we walk up to somehow, unless they clearly look different, that everybody we walk up to somehow is Christian. And therefore, we treat them accordingly. Well, just treat everybody with kindness and compassion and curiosity. Make no assumptions. Because somebody is not wearing Buddhist robes does not mean that they're not Buddhist. Someone doesn't have to look Jewish to be Jewish. Somebody may look Middle Eastern. They don't have to be Islamic. And somebody can be blonde-haired and blue-eyed and be Islamic. It's lazy thinking. And it's lazy thinking that it gets encouraged by our social system, by our media, and by our government, who on a regular basis makes decisions that is not really good for the majority of the American people. They make decisions that is good for the high, mighty few lobbyists, check writers, people that keep them in Congress or in the White House. It's true today. It was true last year. It was true last decade. It was true the decade before that. I can't say if it was true before World War II, though I've read stuff that makes me think that to a lesser degree it was true then. Fundamental change has to happen. But that fundamental change has to start with you. You have to fundamentally change. Not repeat behaviors that you've seen without questioning them. Not mouth words that you've heard without understanding them. Do not speak in one way and simply act in another. Think before you speak. Think of what you speak. Think of why. Even check in and see, how do I feel about what I'm saying? How would I feel if someone was saying that to me? Do I like it if somebody of a religion other than mine would call me a heathen or try to convert me or threaten me? Would I like it if somehow I didn't get a job or a promotion or an apartment because of something that is just me, or how I choose to live in the world that has nothing to do with where I live or how well I do a job? Our religion, in some cases, some versions of the great American Christianity, some versions, not all, some versions are hate-mongering, judgmental, fanatical nutcases. I don't think it's the majority of Christianity. I think the majority of Christianity, though, however, oftentimes sits back and looks at the train wreck of this completely horrible and incorrect representation of what Christianity is, and does nothing. Bullying is bad. It just is. It comes from bad places. So as I'm wrapping down, I'm going to share a few things I do have coming up. Again, my name is Dr. Kevin. You can find out more of me at mydrkevin.com or weboflight, weboflight.com. And you can email me at drkevin@mydrkevin.com. I am going to be teaching a Creating Your New Year class online. And you can check out in my Facebook fan page for more information on that, Creating Your New Year. Making 2018 more of the year that maybe you wanted 2017 to be, and it wasn't. So how do you put that out, and how do you make those changes, and how do you not keep making the same mistakes? I'm also going to be teaching at Tangle Roots Herbal in Nashua, New Hampshire, and astrology for self-divination. For those of you who hear all about your sun signs or may know about a rising or a moon sign that thinks that astrology would be very interesting, it is a 8-week class, and I'm going to be teaching astrology for divination. Again, all of this stuff will be posted. Come check out my stuff, and you can always send me an email. I can send you links. I'm going to be teaching an ADD class, Managing the Gift, again in Nashua at Tangled Roots, and a shielding class. In shielding, it's for you empaths, you caretakers that take on the world and live it in you as if it was yours, that takes people's pain away, literally, and feels that emotional, mental, even sometimes physical pain yourself. Learn how to shield. You can still help people without having to feel it. And then I am doing a tarot for self-divination in February. And this is a 6-week class to teach you how to use the tarot for yourself and friends as another place to get information with which to make better decisions. So that's astrology for self-divination, tarot for self-divination, managing the gift of ADD, how to recognize and manage as a gift, and a shielding class. That's all going to be in Nashua. Come check out my YouTube channel. Come check out everything. Again, my name is Dr. Kevin, and thank you for joining me tonight on Queen City Chronicles. John Hopwood will be back next week, and you're going to be seeing me off and on throughout 2018. John and I are talking about me doing some semi-regular co-hosting here, bringing on some guests and covering some topics. If there's a topic you would like to have me discuss or talk on or go into greater depth, send me an email and I'll make sure that we cover it in one of the shows. You can check out my stuff and see the areas that I have training, education, written books on, and request what you would like to see us talk about when I'm here co-hosting. I want to thank you very much for coming. Have a happy holiday, whatever that holiday is you're doing it. Remember, holiday originally was holy days, HOLYDAYS. Figure out what's sacred, what's holy to you, and make the holidays holy days. Namaste.
Hi, I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro, and I encourage everyone to listen to Matt Cunnerton, Unleashed, in the afternoon.
Romper, bumper, stomper, tell me, do. Magic mirror, tell me today. Have all my friends had fun at play? Today's a special day for Deanna and Scotty and Timmy and Alan and Terry and Indra, and a special day for Colin and Tammy and Carrie and Beverly and Christy and Susie and Jonathan and Nancy and Jason. And I also see Patrick and Kevin and Kent and Terry and Kenny and Kimberly.